Thank you, Sidra, for the introduction. My apologies. I think I have to do one formality, which is very important to me, because my kids will never believe that I spoke to this audience on a Sunday morning in Karachi. So when I go home in the evening, I want to show them, Ji, this is where I went. All right, so this is done. Thank you very much. Okay, so I think the challenge in startups is that when I worked as a founder, and I've been doing this for about 20 years, there were so many distractions, there were so many fires that we'd fight every day. It was very difficult to actually take a step back and think about innovation, right? How many founders here? Raise your hands. Founders? All right. Ex-founders, people who sort of tried it and then dumped it, given it up. Ex-founders. All right, great. Want to be founders at some point in time. Okay, perfect. Not bad, great audience. So, as a founder, when somebody spoke to me about innovation, my first reaction was, this is something that other people do. People who are brighter, smarter, sharper, people who have money, dollars in the bank, right? So in 88, 89, when you spoke about innovation, we didn't think that innovation would happen in my neck of the woods. It would happen with somebody who had a couple of $1 billion in the bank account. And I think my challenge is my slide up. Yeah. Okay. So my challenge is that as a startup, we founders walk a very lonely road. Did you process payroll? Did you pay the bills? Did you check with the customer? Is the customer screaming and shouting? Key employee quit? And with all of these distractions, we generally say that innovation is something which is completely out of our reach. So the game plan for today is that when I speak about innovation, I don't want to talk about innovation that makes it to the front page of the Wall Street Journal, right? I'm going to talk about that lucky PhD candidate whose thesis got covered and got acquired by a leading technology company. I'm just talk about innovation in our local context. The poor man's innovation, our innovation, my innovation, your innovation. And I think within that, the primary thing, the primary criteria or driver for a lot of us is, will it work within the next 3 to 6 months? If whatever am I doing have an impact in the next 3 to 6 months? And if it does, then yes. Because I don't know if I'll be alive or around or walking around with my business in the next 3 to 6 months. So in that context, I think one of the most recent innovative things I saw and has sort of become a fix in my life is the sushi burger. Sushi meets burger. How many sushi fans here? Sushi? All right, okay. So now if you're a sushi fan, sushi is this bite-sized morsel that you take and then you want more of it, right? And it's very easy to go through a couple of rolls and lose a couple of ₹1,000 in the process. So when you bring a burger, especially a burger with a center patty of kani, and present it to somebody like me, we are immediately excited. So for me, the sushi burger concept, even though it's related with food, is a great example of innovation because what it does is that it sort of catches your attention, brings people in, reduces your trial rate, want people to experiment. But sushi burger is sort of a light example. What I'm really interested is innovation that changes people's lives. And when I talk about transformative innovation, my game plan is to actually tell you two stories, just two short stories, that talk about people who've done innovation, at least in my mind, in my opinion, in a local context. So meet Ali Asghar. Ali is a very old school friend, and his specialty is, so he has 2 boards as a physician. He's a med-ped specialist, which basically means that he treats very young and very old people. And he's also a nephrologist, which basically means that he treats kidney disease. So Ali's magic number is 300. Actually 320, because it went up when I spoke to him last night. So any guesses on what 320 is? Any idea? Come on, guys, wake up. 320, 320. What's the connection between Ali Asghar Lanewala and 320? Patients, all right. So Ali works for SIUT, which is the Sindh Institute of Urology and Transplant. And every Tuesday or Wednesday, Ali runs the outpatient clinic. He starts at about 9, and he finishes about 1:32. And in these 5 or 6 hours, his team of physicians and residents treats, addresses, diagnoses, and recommends treatment for about 320 patients a day. Now think about this for a second. SIUT treats about 1 million patients a year. It's a publicly funded, not-for-profit hospital. That translates into 80,000 patients a month, 3,000 patients a day, of which 320 get treated by Ali's team. And there are about 10 to 12 teams like this at SIUT. And you're not talking about processing paper. Ali doesn't run a BPO company, right? He's not processing medical records. He's actually bringing in people, taking their histories, identifying the treatment protocol, recommending medication, reviewing that medication, doing follow-ups. And his team does this once a week, 320 patients, right? So when I first spoke to Ali, and we've been having this chat since he started at SIUT, in 2005, the number was 80. Then it grew to 120, then went 150, then 200, then 250. And then this weekend, when I spoke to him before coming to the conference, he said it's gone up to 320. So I said, Ki, yaar, are you mad? Are you crazy? As in, why would you want to put yourself through this? And what are you thinking? And you know what Ali says? Ali says, Jawwad, these guys come from villages around Sindh. They travel for 24 to 48 hours. They come to the hospital. They sleep outside at night. When they come see me in the morning, I don't have the heart to tell them, you have to stay one more day because I don't have time for you. And over the last 10 years, as the load has increased, I've had to figure out, how to make this work. And we've done a lot of things. We've tried a lot of techniques and tools. And by the grace of God, things have changed. But how have they changed? So Ali says, we've done a lot of things repeatedly, again and again and again, till we find things that work. So the first word in the 3-word framework is iterative. If you're a programmer, if you're a developer, this is the old repeat until loop. Repeat until something works. I think the second thing Ali says is that we experiment, we're open to change. So we have a very open culture within the department where I'm the person who's responsible, but I also make mistakes. I also run experiments. And I'm always very open to say, Achha, let's try it this way. A junior resident come up and say, we've been doing this the last 20 years, why don't we try it this way? So we try things. But we don't try things blindly because we're dealing ultimately with patients' lives. So for us, what we've done is that we've brought in resident training. I spend about 2 to 3 hours every day with a new physician who comes on board. We've put together a safety net, so everything gets reviewed multiple times by multiple physicians. We've gone out and make sure that we don't discourage failure. We actually encourage it. We encourage experimentation, but we also want to make sure that we don't fall into what's called, so there's a big difference between errors, mistakes, missteps, and negligence. So we're very clear about this specific process. We encourage failure, we encourage experimentation, fault tolerance, but at the same time, we want to make sure that we don't play with patients' lives. And it's taken us about 10 years to get it right. But every year we grow, and every year the process improves by a small bit. So the third part is marginal, fractional improvement every single day. So iterative experimentation that leads to marginal fraction improvement on a regular basis. That was Ali's story. My next story is equally inspiring. And remember, Ali had nothing to do with technology, right? So this young woman has also nothing to do with technology, and her magic number is 14 days. So come on, make a wild guess. 14 days. What does 14 days mean or represent? She only works 14 days, all right? Anyone else? Gigi, come on, guys, wake up. Yes, but what happens in 2 weeks? That is an ICU, right? That's a tertiary care unit. So my colleague slash friend slash relative slash inspirational role model, when she started in Pakistan in 1994, she started working in a tertiary care unit. The metric was very simple. If, God forbid, you were put on a ventilator, you had 14 days before they'd switch it off. At the end of 14 days, they'll take you off and you would die. That's the metric. So Nawal's a tertiary care specialist. And when I was speaking to her yesterday, because I wanted to get my facts right, and I was talking to her about empathy, I said, why did you do this, Nawal? Maybe I haven't told you what she's done, right? Why did you do what you did? And I feel that it was empathy. And she said, Jawwad, empathy is a very nice, very mellow, very touchy-feely, very mushy word. I did it because I was pissed. I was angry. And I was angry because I said, she doesn't swear, so I'm not going to attribute. She said, why can't we get this right? So what was the challenge? The challenge was, there's a phenomenon called, if you put on a ventilator, there's a phenomenon called ventilator-associated pneumonia, which basically means that you go on a ventilator and you get infected with pneumonia. So now, if you're on a ventilator, if you're on a tertiary care unit, you're already in a very difficult, awkward, complicated situation. You don't need pneumonia, right? And she said that the word is VAP, V-A-P. She said our VAP rates were very high. And what was driving me mad was that why can't we control this? And what was my challenge? My challenge was our quality of care is already so expensive that we don't have any more money to load patients. So our patients are already spending so much on getting, especially in this specific situation, that we don't want to spend any more money. And when you'd ask around, people would simply say, no, we can't do this because this is Pakistan. We can't do this because we don't have cash. We can't do this because we don't have this equipment. We can't do this because it's not possible in Pakistan. What are you thinking? So she said, what can we do? So Nawal said I went back to the drawing board and I did a literature search, and I dug up everything I could find in and around VAP and what people had done, things that had worked, things that had not worked, things that had effective results over a period of time, and I made a checklist. And I made a checklist of about 12 to 15 points, which basically became my protocol. And I said, I'm going to measure VAP rates before I introduced the protocol. I'm going to introduce VAP rates, measure VAP rates after the protocol. So there is something called the Johns Hopkins National Nosocomial Infection Survey, which basically tracks infection rates, specifically in critical care, tertiary care, advanced care units across the US, right? So before Nawal started this process and exercise, the reference infection rate at the hospital she worked for was significantly higher than the NNIS Johns Hopkins rates, right? 4 months later, when the protocol had been implemented, they were significantly lower. Now think about this. A quality of care in a Pakistani hospital in Karachi that beats the benchmark for US hospitals. And she had many things that she tried, but the two things that had the biggest impact. She said, and to my friends in Nawal's word, to my friends from outside, I will translate it. She said, 15 rupees ka filter aata hai. It was one of the things we did. Mega size की mouthwash की बोतल आती है. Maybe 50 paise per dose. So she basically said, the filter costs 15 rupees, and the bottle of mouthwash, costs maybe about 50 paisas per dosage per patient. So we made this list of checklists, we rolled it out, we tried it out, and if we finalize it, we said, we did simple things. We changed the angle at which the patient lies down. So we raised his head a bit. We made sure that every morning his mouth was rinsed with chlorhexidine, which is the mouthwash. Rather than having water in the ventilator, we took it out because we found that was a source of bacterial infection. We put in the HME filter. But the most important thing we did was we said that the bedside nurse we made her the most powerful person in the room. She had the checklist. If a senior physician came and did not clean his hand with disinfectant, she would stop him and say, sir, you haven't cleaned your hand. Please go back, clean your hand, and then come back, because that's on the compliance list. But that's not the interesting part. This was done out in 2005. By 2008, based on Nawal's speaking engagements, based on her papers, this protocol was rolled out all across Pakistan. So she no longer works in Pakistan, but she still says, when I come in and speak at conferences, and a nurse comes up and I ask her, okay, what's the protocol she's using? And she says, we wipe the mouth with chlorohexidine, we've changed the SME filter, we've raised the incline. I know where that list comes from. So immersive, which is the next word, iterative experimentation. Immersion or immersive basically means that you're talking about deep specialization. You cannot innovate if you do one thing today and another thing tomorrow. So pick a field, pick a line, pick an area that works for you, and take it from there. Empathy and anger are the two faces of the same coin. Either care about customers, care about problems, care about people that are around you, or get angry about why things can't get fixed. Nawal and Ali Azhar Lainwala did these things without spending any real cash. So please don't tell me that you need $1 billion to innovate. You don't. All you need is the mindset, the curiosity, the desire to say that I want to improve fractionally. I work with athletes, and I work with kids who want to run, and we teach them and we train them to improve their times for sprints using stopwatches by a fraction of a second every day. So if I look at the list of things that are important, if I summarize the talk, I would simply say, get curious, get empathize, or get angry, and experiment. Innovation is not rocket science. It's simply doing things till you improve fractionally every single day, till you get to a point where you have something which is different, which is exciting, which is interesting. Don't aim for the elephant. Don't go for the big shot. Start with small steps. Reduce the cost of trial and deliver credible value. All right, so I think I'm out of time. I'm going to just say one last thing, and that is, Nawal says, Jawwad, none of this is original. The only thing that's interesting is that I took a lot of ideas, I put them together, and I tried something interesting and different. Ali says the same thing. None of what I've done is original. I just looked around and saw what people are doing, and I tried to implement that in the local context. So look around, ask around, see what other people are doing, and take it from there. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.